Hey everybody, it's Stacy with Bridges 52.7. Wanted to give a quick discussion about Marry Me that just came out for Valentine's weekend with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. Just the one thing that I will say, all three of my friends and I, all three of us did not like the beginning a whole lot. Just so you know, it did get better, we thought. And this is not to police the movie, but just if you were going to go for some people who are like-minded, just to kind of give you a little bit of like heads up, do your homework. I'm not trying to police it. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't see it, but I don't want people to go see things based on my recommendation and miss the fact that as I'm looking for bridges and ways to connect things to our faith, just because I can find connections doesn't mean I'm always advocating something. And just because I have some caution doesn't mean I'm saying not to see it or judging anyone who does. So there's a lot of grace and freedom, but I do want to kind of give a bit of a balanced, just perspective. So personally, me and my friends all thought the beginning was a bit kind of sexual and raunchy and in your face and a little bit edgy. There were just several different things, but especially there's a scene where the Jennifer Lopez character is supposed to be getting married on stage with her boyfriend, who's also a singer, and they've written a song together. And so her first song, she's kind of doing, it's like her in the church with a bunch of nuns and things like that, getting ready for this wedding. But in the words, there was it just was such a mix of like supposed to be holy and reverent kind of imagery and weddings, which to me should be a sweet kind of a thing. But then there was this really kind of dark sexual kind of perversion underneath it. To me, I just thought it was icky. It made me feel dirty. And honestly, all three of us kind of felt dirty in the beginning of that. However, I was really like, if this isn't going to get any better, I could have walked at that point. I just didn't like it. But after that, it absolutely changed. And there was such a different, sweet tone to the rest of the movie. So just for, that's our 2 cents on it. And I would say we were all pretty much in agreement on that one. So for what it's worth. But as far as touch points in the movie and ways to connect it to the Christian faith, to the kingdom life, I thought the message that's all throughout this movie, beginning to end, the whole idea is turning things upside down. I may not always agree with how she turned things upside down, but the principle is very kingdom. So I would say some of it's a bit of a feminist thing, like, what do we have to wait on them to propose? We can do it and whatever. Whatever. But she gives up this guy that's supposed to help her career advance. He's got a big empire like she does, and in the world's eyes, they are this power couple. And yet she's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is getting me nowhere. This guy's not faithful, like whatever. So she chooses some random dude out of the audience. This is straight out of the previews. But she chooses him. And of course, it's a rom-com. We know they always work out the same way. So of course it works out. I'm not spoiling anything. You should know that going in. But it's a sweet story. And but she chooses this random guy who turns out to be a math teacher, and he basically has no social media whatsoever. And so they are completely opposite in so many ways. And as they're trying to sort things out, what you see over and over and over is this principle that Jesus talks about, where he says, if you want to gain your life, you're going to lose it. But he who is willing to lose his life for my sake will find it. And so she keeps kind of walking that principle out, this upside down kingdom mentality. Not that, again, she's not thinking biblically, but it's a parable, so to speak, of these principles played out, because I think the movie all the way through we see these principles. So Jesus comes, he is the God of the instead, and he says, I came to bring freedom instead of captivity, beauty instead of ashes. And he brings more joy and gladness instead of sorrow and mourning. Like, all throughout we see him turning around life instead of death. So that is the nature of who God is and what he came to bring. But the path to get there is what Proverbs 3:5-6 says, that we lean not on our own understanding, but trust in the Lord in all of our ways and acknowledge him, and he will make our path straight. Doesn't always mean that we will understand them, but he will make them straight. They may be unusual, but he will clarify for us. And so her path, and that's one of her songs that she writes, is all about this way to you. Like, all of my disappointments become this brick road. All of these broken heart dreams and hearts and whatever, it's this brick road. So it doesn't make sense to her, but yet the way is being cleared. And I think that's what the Lord, it's that, Garth Brooks song, right? About the unanswered prayers that we thank the Lord for. And so this has some similar kind of themes in that. But learning to trust the Lord, Romans 8, I believe it is, where he's like, you know, I work all things for good for those who love me and are called according to my purposes. So we see throughout this movie things working out for good, even though it's not what she wanted. Her being willing to lose all the things that make sense in the world's eyes, give it all up. Nobody thinks what she's doing makes any sense, but she's like, well, everything I've done has got me nowhere. So that being willing to go in a totally counterintuitive, upside down kind of way, and it actually gets her exactly where she wanted to go in the end, although it's unconventional. So really, there's some great principles, biblical principles all throughout the movie. So that's what I've got. Feel free to chime in. Love to hear your thoughts, but hopefully this can get your brain thinking just a little bit about some kind of ways. And I would say, if I can add, like coming out of the movie, I would think you could ask a couple questions about, okay, what has not been working for you in your life? How could you maybe turn around? What are things you're holding on to that maybe if you just let go of them? And I always say it's like having your hands, like, where's the camera? Having your hands wide open, that if my hands are open, then God is free to take out of my hands anything he wants to. But they're also open means I can receive anything he wants to give me. I cannot, if I'm holding on to my stuff, I can't receive what God would give me because I'm holding on to my stuff too tightly. My hands can't receive. So I think this movie kind of illustrates that idea of just letting go and going, I'm going to quit holding on to everything that I was grasping hold of and trust the Lord with it. Even though, again, she is in no way talking about trusting the Lord. But it's a great opportunity to have some conversation about what are things you're holding on to? What are things that haven't been working? How could you maybe turn things upside down? Be willing to trust the Lord with kind of some upside down ways of thinking. So that's what I got. Thanks.